Hello and welcome to this episode of Leadership Conversations on behalf of Women Automotive Network. I am your host today. My name is Micha Goebig, and I am a confidence and leadership coach for women in male-dominated industry. And I am also the owner of a bilingual communications agency that serves the luxury car and supplier industry. Today, I am very excited to be talking to Kylie Jimenez, who is Senior Vice President, People, Technology, and Corporate Affairs at Toyota Motor Europe. Thanks for being with us today, Kylie. Would you tell our audience a little bit more about you?
Sure, thanks, Micha. So as you said, I'm the Senior Vice President of People, Technology, and Corporate Affairs at Toyota Motor Europe. And what this actually means is that I cover HR, innovation, IT&D, government affairs, ESG, and communications. I started
That's
with Toyota.
A lot.
It is a lot. There's a lot of really good people there too.
Mm-hmm.
I started out with Toyota about 11 years ago in Canada. And then prior to that, I was in packaged goods and pharmaceuticals. Toyota's actually given me some really great growth through various challenges. A few years ago, I moved my family to Brazil to take on a role as regional officer for Toyota Latin America and Caribbean region in HR and administration. In January of last year, I joined TME based in Brussels, Belgium, as the VP of People and Innovation. And of course, the reward for good work is more work. So in July of last year, I was promoted to the position I mentioned above. I was born and raised in Toronto, Canada by immigrant parents from Spain and Australia, which is a very typical experience in Toronto. Seems like everyone's from somewhere. And I have three wonderful teenagers who are 16, 14, and almost 13, who keep me incredibly grounded and are my absolute pride and joy.
That sounds like you have a very full and very colorful life, very diverse. So you're in the right spot with innovation and people. I just gather from even just like those few sentences.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah, that's amazing. Let's start off by talking a little bit about Women Automotive Network. When did you get to know the association, and what made you get involved?
Yeah, so I joined about a year ago, and the reason why is I've been in the automotive industry for just over a decade now. I love it, but it's not without its challenges. We're still operating in an industry that's traditionally and largely dominated by men. But we know that anywhere from 65 to 80% of purchasing decisions, although I saw somewhere 90% this morning, those decisions are made by women. So it makes absolute sense that we want our workforce to reflect our customer base. So saying this, we know that the industry isn't as attractive to women as to men. And some of this has to do with gender stereotypes that females are subjected to, also what we're exposed to in early childhood. But also, Deloitte did a study that shows the top reasons why women avoid careers in auto. And it's things like, maybe you've seen it, 65% say it's an unappealing work environment, about 60% say lack of work-life balance, 35% say perceived caliber of people, which I think is just a little bit insulting. I like to say that 65% didn't say that, but here's the thing. I want to be part of the solution. And I think networks like this are exactly what we need in order to surface and address the issues that we're collectively experiencing in our industry. So we can change not only for ourselves, but for future generations of girls and women.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the mission, right? And when I started reading up on you, the thing that stood out to me that with all your responsibilities, your self-definition is mostly about an HR leader, a people leader. So DEI, of course, we've just touched upon it already, is of course your responsibility. And what do you consider the number one challenge in matters of DEI right now?
Micha, you hit the nail on the head there. It doesn't matter what part of my responsibilities we're talking about. I'm always going to talk about people being our advantage. So I do lead with that in mind. On the topic of challenges in DE&I, I think there's a few. I mean, I've been doing DE&I work for a long time, and I can tell you that that companies have lots of activities, but we can't always show results, right? So for one thing, in Europe, it's very difficult to measure results. So we can ask people to we can't ask people to self-identify. So in Canada, for example, when you join a company and periodically you update some information about yourself, so we know how diverse we are. In Europe, we can just measure gender in very simple terms of male and female. So we do that. But we know that diversity is broader than men and women. And the competitive advantage really comes when these diverse teams where people can bring their full selves. So, I can't stand that we don't have data. Toyota loves data. So we actually, 2 weeks ago, launched our first ever self-identification survey across all of Europe. So it'll tell us the gaps we have. So people, we can't, like in a normal survey, tie it back to a person. We just know that of the respondents, this is what they say. So we'll be able to take this and look at our desired state and be able to work against that. So we know, if the general population has 10% LGBT, for example, and we see that we're at 10%, that's great news. If we have a gap, we know we have some work to do. The other major issue I'll say is that it takes time to see change. So we have really low turnover in our organization, which means
is good.
it's great. It's a really great problem. And it's not like we're going to go to the dominant group and say, sorry, we need to move you so we can achieve this. We don't do that. So we have great programs like sponsorship program, inclusivity 360s, PANI objectives for everybody, individual plans, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the challenge will be sustaining momentum over time with low turnover, where you can't quite see the results that you might do if you were doing a plan for sales, for example.
Yeah. But I love that you focus on the data, because I'm originally from Germany. That's where my automotive experience is. I live in Seattle, in the US. That's a very different environment when it comes to that type of personal data, and it makes life a lot easier when you know what you're dealing with. So I hope that a lot of people will get involved in your survey so that you get a very good picture there.
We hope so too.
And so those are challenges, that's for sure. What about the progress you're seeing? What makes you confident that we are on the right track, that we are moving things in the right direction?
It's a great question, because I'm going to be asked this by our employees too, right? So, but what makes me really confident is our pipeline. So we look at our talent and succession planning. We know that we have 50% of our talent pool, our high pot talent pool, is female. So we know that when we have the opportunities for promotions, we'll have a diverse slate for those roles. We also know we have an inclusive environment. We're really working on this. We measure it through our annual opinion survey. So we know we're creating the right environment for women and, quite frankly, everyone. And lastly, I can tell you that the needle does not budge without focused effort and belief that DE&I is a competitive advantage. So, normally in organizations, the HR person has to really push this, or the diversity person. But I have the absolute pleasure of working for a CEO who, when he took over last year, he made D&I one area of competitive advantage for the organization. So, there's 8 top priorities. So, and DE&I is one of them. So it's alongside things like electrification, carbon neutrality, digitalization, because there's a recognition that we need innovation, we need engagement, we need the best ideas and execution. Therefore, we need the best talent. So, I feel very confident because we have top leadership commitment, not only from our CEO, but our heads of manufacturing, sales, and so on.
Yes, DEI and innovation, that's like so interlinked. And you just mentioned top talent, which brings me to my next question. I just mentioned I'm in America on the West Coast here, it's all tech here. How can you not only Toyota, of course, but the car industry in general, attract the top talent and retain the top talent that might be drawn to the big tech companies?
Yeah, digitalization, new business models, these have revolutionized other industries, and automotive is definitely no exception. For our sector, these forces are giving rise to disruptive technology-driven trends like diverse mobility, autonomous driving, electrification, connectivity. And listen, we recognize that tech is talent. Earlier I was saying, I will always look at the organization in terms of people, and we need the best talent. And let's face it, tech is exciting. I could hear it in your voice when you said, where you're living. But it's even more exciting when people can relate to the thing that they're doing. So when you can actually be immersed in and interact with it, like you can with a car or moving people. So it's very relatable. It's disruptive and exciting. But I think it's not just the work that people will look for. I mean, the pandemic has changed the way that people look at work. So I think that we need to have a really great option to great value proposition. So I think people care about the culture where they work. So imagine if we're able to attract the best women in STEM, for example, or diverse talent, but then they can go do STEM work for the next, for the people coming behind them, the young girls coming. And we do have a big program where we do for Girls STEM the Future, where we have our women engineers and other non-engineer women too, go out and just really make sure that we're getting girls interested in careers in STEM.
That is fabulous, because that's the pipeline, right? That's the wonderful diverse pipeline with a lot of females. Yeah. So as we were just on the topic of tech, what we're seeing here right now is the Great Resignation, as we call it, and of course that has affected not only tech companies, but it's kind of everywhere. Is it affecting your business too?
You're talking about the Great Resignation that's happening in the US, right? Yeah. I mean, actually, it's funny because I talked to my US colleagues, and this is a really real thing. And we actually haven't seen that in Europe yet, but we do recognize that the world is changing. People are reevaluating their lives. They're looking for choice. And, you know, I think that people are choosing to even retire versus stay in a job that doesn't make them feel as engaged or rewarded as some other thing that they have in mind. People are going even without plans sometimes. So we have some policy changes that we've made to recognize this. One is that we have full hybrid work. And what's interesting is the evolution, right? So early in the pandemic, we recognized that people wanted flexibility. So we surveyed management and said, what does flex work look like to you? And they said, anywhere from 30 to 70% of people's time at work. But as the pandemic went on, we shifted. And then we asked employees what they wanted. And employees want full flexibility. So we did this. So we said, the type of work that requires innovation or collaboration is best done in the office. Other work is up to you. We do want to see people one day out of 10. But really, it's up to people to figure out with their manager what works for them. We recognize people want freedom and trust to get work done. So we have a policy where people can work from anywhere in the world 1 month a year. So it could be Spain, could be Canada, it could be anywhere. And we also recognize people want to do good in this world. People are leaving sometimes because they just feel like they want to make a difference. So last year we launched our pro bono program, and employees can take 40 hours paid leave to volunteer for a cause that they believe in. And then lastly, since we're talking about diversity and inclusion, we really have, we've really focused on inclusion in the things that we're going to do at work. So, we've been in people's living rooms or at the side of their dinner table, as you are at mine today. And the insight is that people want to come to work as their full selves, right? So we took the approach of dress for your day, right? People have been wearing yoga pants and comfy clothes. And then, they don't want to come back to a formal office environment. Some people are dying to dress up again. So we said, you know what? You decide how you want to do it. We've also got gender neutral toilets, faith and meditation room, all of these things that have changed over the last year to really say this is a place that welcomes you.
I love everything you just said. I really love that. Do you see that making a huge difference for women, and especially, let's say, young mothers? Do you get the feedback there? I haven't had specific feedback on whether that's affecting young mothers or young fathers. I mean, I say that only because, in Belgium, certainly there is a really good balance between gender roles in terms of looking after family, but we know that, it's not like that everywhere. We do have some really, one great policy that came out of the UK is a menopause. So kind of looking at the other end of the spectrum. So much of the policies we do around flexibility and so forth are for people who are raising children. I think we can all understand that one, but some of these more taboo type of subjects like that, we tend not to talk about. And so we really are trying to make it a great place to work for everybody. That is amazing. We'll have to talk more about that, but not right now because our time is limited.
We'll have coffee.
I would like to hear a little bit more about yourself, your career. And you have mentioned that in the beginning, your parents are from different countries. They were immigrants in Canada. When you were born, you have worked in a number of countries. Do you feel that this international background is really serving you? Is that an important element in the path towards greater diversity and inclusion?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. I think I feel very fortunate, first off, to have the opportunity to live and work in other countries because it can be, I mean, to some people, it can be really exciting to be completely immersed in something foreign and figure it out. In TME alone, though, like just in my regular workplace, we have 68 different nationalities. So this is quite a normal thing for us. But as you pointed out, my parents are from different parts of the world. And, you know, I think growing up, for me, it made me see the whole world as an opportunity versus just Toronto. And you know, my first experience working and living in Brazil was really interesting. It's like a crash course in leading diverse teams. You figure it out pretty quickly. Actually, you figure it out pretty quickly, and then you need to speak it slowly. But you know, one thing that's really helped me is that Covey principle, which is to, you know, understand to be understood. You know, I think if we really start from that position, you know, if we really respect people, it really doesn't matter what country we're in, we're able to do great work.
Absolutely, absolutely. Respected appreciation, and then you take it from there, right? Do you have a female role model or anybody you admire today? Because I am sure that for many women in your organization, you are a role model. So I was wondering how that looks for you.
I mean, I think there's really two types of role models. You have people like Angela Merkel, Ellen DeGeneres, Michelle Obama, like the superstar women. And then you have more tangible, relatable people that you would see in your organization or your industry. You know, do I think growing up watching Oprah influenced me at the end of the day? Sure. I mean, there was this incredible woman who, you know, was an expert on every topic, built this amazing empire. And I mean, seemed to have a knack for discovering every incredible book that's ever been written, right? Truly inspiring. But closer to home,
very true.
I actually have my mom. My mom was the primary income earner in our home. As I mentioned, my parents were both immigrants. They were a great team together. But my mom is like Crocodile Dundee. And probably for some people listening to this, that's a really old reference. But the short part that you need to take from that is she was fearless. When she was 20 years old, so 60 years ago, she left Australia with a friend and decided to travel around the world. Like they went to Russia, they went through Europe, they went to Canada. And this was the 60s. And for perspective, they traveled by ship, but not by plane. And she has incredible confidence in her own ability and has spent a lifetime growing through challenges. So, you know, she had the same expectation for me and my brother. She'd just say, you know, stop and get on with, you know, stop fussing and get on with the job. But one woman I did work for early career was a woman by the name of Shelley Perlman. And when I interviewed for a job reporting to Shelley, she told me she had 2 kids, you know, she was so successful, and she made it look so easy. And I thought, well, I'm going to do that too. And, you know, she was fantastic. She was an excellent coach and mentor. And she had this great way of making you feel truly cared about, but would push you outside your comfort zone. So imagine, you know, you have this great leader that pushes you outside your comfort zone, makes you feel safe. And then I have my mom's voice telling me, just get on with the job. And it's a pretty powerful combination.
I totally love that. For me, it's always my grandma is the first woman I mentioned because she was a business owner in 1926.
Wow.
And did not remarry after the Second World War, not to lose her business. Because back then in Europe, she couldn't have owned her bank account and her business if she had remarried. So yeah, so those are the personal things that impact us a lot. And I love that you had a mentor because I feel in my generation in Europe, a lot of women did not have a mentor or a mentorship relationship with someone in their industry. It was not that common. I'm glad that this is a big focus now. I bet it's in your organization too. Mentoring.
Oh, definitely. You know, I mean, probably our best program though is our sponsorship program. And that is actually all of our, we probably had about 60 women go through this program. And every single one of them has either had a rotation to another part of the company or a promotion. And they're all sponsored by VPs in our organization. And it's funny when we start to have talent discussions, how proud each one of them, and the VPs that, for now are male, but, how proud they are of the person they're sponsoring and, and how they're making opportunities happen for them. So definitely something we care about.
Yeah, I guess that's the step up. Sponsoring for people to open doors for you when you are not in the room versus being a bit of a guide to you. That's the one step up. That's wonderful. Now let's talk a little bit about women who may be interested in getting into the automotive industry. What's one word of opportunity? What is the one word you would give them that you see as an opportunity there?
I'm actually going to say opportunity because I think, we need women. We need you. We need the insights. This is something that we're actively going out and trying to attract women to our organization. 50% of our grad hires last year were women and 30% in engineering. Obviously we won't hire, but we really do. We really want to attract the best.
Yeah. So what would you say, both either engineers or also non-technical women interested in entering the car industry, what's a must-do, must-have to get started? What's important?
Yeah, my advice is for anyone who wants to have a successful career, make sure you develop career capital. So be really good at what you do. Now I can say that, and then I can also tell you at Toyota, you could come in as a really, really great lawyer. And then because we have this rotation program where about 10% of our population moves every year, we have lawyers that are running sales divisions, engineers that are also running a big section of sales in one of the countries. So, be really good at what you do. You need to have some kind of career capital, but make sure people know your work. We had this really fun activity at work last week. So you could sign up for lunch with strangers, right? You bring your lunch, you're paired up with people across the company. And it's a way of making diverse connections you wouldn't have every day. Really cool. But we got on the topic of self-promotion at work. And you can imagine what the group was saying, right? Because self-promotion is disgusting. But I asked about the opposite condition. I said, should your work just speak for itself then? And you can imagine the majority of the group said yes. But that's, that's just not true. So, in addition to being really good, nobody wants to hear you brag about accomplishments, but people need to know you, they need to trust you, and they need to know what you're capable of. So, go to lunches with strangers, present in a meeting that you might not ordinarily present in, join an employee resource group or somewhere where you can be seen in action. And also get to know people on a personal level because we like to work with people we trust. So if you've got career capital, people know and can trust you, there's the ticket.
Yeah, absolutely. And just let me add this one thing. A lot of women especially seem to think that there's a very fine line between humble and arrogant or bragging. I personally feel it's like an 8-lane highway. There's a lot of room to talk about what you're doing and taking pride in what you're doing without erring on the wrong side of that very wide highway. So I really would encourage women to talk about their achievements and their talents and their passions. So thank you so much. This was so insightful and inspiring. I have one last question.
Okay.
You have teenagers, so that that puts it in a different framework. What advice would you give your 16-year-old self?
Well, I can do this because I have 16-year-old me. That's my daughter. Of course, she doesn't see it that way. But
of course not.
It would be what my mom did for me. Pack your life full of experiences. Education doesn't need to be in school. Micha, I'm sure your success doesn't come from, just some course that you learned. It's experience, it's curiosity, it's seeing new things. And so, I think it's important to know what's going on in the world, know what people are thinking about, be able to see trends. So, read the news, challenge yourself to try new things, get a job, have diverse connections.
Yeah.
I doubt my daughter will ever see this, so I can tell you how proud I am of her. But she loves STEM. Like here we are talking about getting girls into STEM. And she's taking programming at school and auto shop. She was it's 7 a.m. First person in line to go get her driver's permit on her 16th birthday. So, while we can't even get her up to go to school on time, what we
priorities.
Exactly. But what we see is when it's something that she wants or what young people want and they're motivated to do it, they do it. And this gives me a lot of confidence in the next generation of girls we have, because they are extremely confident and they'll go after what they want. And so they should.
Absolutely. It's a wonderful generation, just seeing them grow up right now and just being they seem to develop self-trust a lot earlier overall. So thank you so much for sharing that. That's super inspiring. I had such a great time talking to you, and I'm sure our audience will have an amazing time watching this. And speaking of audience, if you're watching this and you have a comment to make or a question to ask, please just drop them in the comments and you will get a response ASAP. Kylie, thank you so much for being with us today, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Goodbye.
Take care.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.